Good morning, children. Sai Ram. I again welcome you all to the online class of economics. Children, I hope you all are fine at your home and taking all the precautions of coronavirus like wearing mask, washing your hands regularly, do not moving outside unnecessarily, helping your family members in various household works, doing your home assignment, and passing your most valuable time in studies. Children, before your summer holidays, we have finished up our first unit, that is Introduction of National Income, which contains a weightage of 10 marks in the board examination. We have covered up from chapter number 1 to chapter number 4 all the theoretical as well as the practical portions. Now today we are going to start our chapter number 5 of our book Macroeconomics, and the name of our chapter is Money. So children, from this chapter, a second unit of macroeconomics is starting, which contains a weightage of 6 marks in the board examination, and it contains two chapters, a chapter number 5 that is money, and a chapter number 6 that is banking, which is a central banking and a commercial banking. So children, the topic what we are covering up today is money and evolution of money, forms of money, supply of money, the concept of money supply and measurement of money. So let us start our first topic, that is money. Children, what is money? Money is anything which is commonly accepted as a medium of exchange, common measure of value, standard for deferred payment, and store of value. As I just said, money is defined as a medium of exchange, and with the help of money, children, any exchange of goods and services can take place. Money is said to be the most liquid assets among all the assets of a man, and it has a general acceptability as a means of payment and liquidity characteristics. Keynes call this liquidity preferences. Now this is a general definition of money. Children, money is regarded any object which is generally accepted as a medium of exchange, unit of account, that is common measure of value, standard for deferred payment, store of value, and transfer of goods. These are some characteristics of money, children. Money has a characteristics of general acceptability. Now what is a general acceptability, children? Suppose if you are going into the market and you are going to buy something, then the seller has to accept the Indian rupees for his own sale. Like if you are going to buy any goods or any services, now that person has to accept the money, the Indian rupee. Now this is characteristics of general acceptability. Second is the stability of money, transportability, storability, and divisibility. Transferability means you can carry the money to any places. Storability, you can store money, you can save the money. Divisibility, you can divide the money into various denominations. So these are the common characteristics of the money. I hope you all are aware of this because this is related to your basic life. Now children, money is the most important discovery of modern life. It is the foundation stone where all the economic activities revolve. It is very difficult to imagine the modern economic life without money, isn't it? We cannot imagine our life without money, because if we want to survive, then we still need various goods and services, and that goods and services is not available to us free of cost. We have to pay certain amount so that we can avail such goods and services. So money is what? It is the basic necessities of all the economies. So children, when money was not invented, the primitive world trade was carried out according to the barter system of exchange. Now what is this barter system? Barter system, or you can say bartering, is a system of exchange of some goods with other goods when no money is involved. Children, in the beginning of the civilization, or you can say in the ancient times, when peoples were very simple, that is why the human needs are also very simple and limited. People used to exchange their goods with each other to satisfy their wants. Therefore, barter system refers to exchange of goods for goods, or an economy where there is a direct barter of goods and services, then it is called as barter economy or C to C economy, where C refers here commodity to commodity economy. Children, for example, when a farmer gives wheat and gets cloth in return from the weaver, then it is known as barter system of exchange. Now children, one thing is very important to understand here, that barter system can work only when there exists double coincidence of wants. Now what is this double coincidence of wants? Children, double coincidence of wants refers to the simultaneously fulfillment of mutual needs of buyers and sellers. Children, in the recent examples, want for clothing by the farmer coincides with the want for wheat by the weaver. However, in the you can say it is very difficult to find out such double coincidence of wants in the real life. It leads to a huge human trading cost. So children, with rise in economic activities, the exchange through barter system became more difficult and complicated. Some of the problems, some of the limitations, the drawbacks or the problem of barter system we are going to learn in the next slide. Here children, we are going to learn what are the problems we are facing in exchanging goods with goods. I mean, want to exchange if one goods with another goods, then what are the certain problems arises. Now, analysis of this economic system reveals three aspects that are considered as a problem. I mean, these are the few problems what we are considered as a problem in exchanging one good with another goods. So the first problem, our first problem is children, lack of double coincidence of wants. What is lack of double coincidence of wants? Children, in barter system, goods were exchanged through goods, as we all know. In this process, wants for both buyers and seller must be coincidence. This is called lack of coincidence of wants. Children, barter system can work only when there exists double coincidence of wants. Barter system can work only when both the buyers and the sellers are ready to exchange their goods with each other. For example, A can exchange their goods with B only when B has what A wants and A has what B wants. However, in the real life, it is such coincidence of wants is very rare and complicated. So such coincidences are very rare in a real life, children. Now second limitation is lack of common measure of value. So children, in the barter system, all commodities are not of equal value and there is no common measure, unit of value of various goods and services in which exchange ratio can be expressed. For example, if A has wheat and B has rice, then it is very difficult to decide that how much of wheat is needed to exchange with 1 kg of rice. So children, in the absence of common measure of value, the exchange ratios are fixed randomly in which one of the party generally suffers. If obviously it is a basic things, children, if there is no basic measurement of exchanging one goods into the another goods, then definitely one of the party will definitely suffers. I mean, one party will get less and another party will get high, will get more. So that was a problem we are facing in exchanging one goods with another goods. Now, the third problem what we are facing is difficulty in making deferred payment. So, children, under barter system, I'm talking about the economic. I'm talking about the exchange system in the ancient times, where goods are being exchanged with another goods, and by this process, humans beings or the peoples can satisfy their wants. So, children, the third difficulty we are facing in exchanging one goods with another goods is difficulty in making the deferred payment. So, children, as I just said, under the barter system, any contracts involving future payments and credit transactions cannot take place with easy because of the following reasons. Now, the first reason says that the borrower may not be able to arrange goods of exactly the same quality at the time of repayment. This was a problem in where any credit transactions or any future payments cannot be take place. Now, second problem is there may be a conflict arises regarding which specific commodity is to be used for repayment. Exactly, if there is any future payments, or if there is any credit transactions, then there may be a conflict arises between the borrower and the lender regarding the commodity to be repaid at the time of repayment. Because if the quality of certain commodity was not good, then the lender will refuse to take it from the borrower, isn't it? So the commodity to be repaid may lose or gain its value at the time of repayment. Exactly, if there is the time of repayment comes, then the commodity either can gain or either can lose its value. So it is very difficult to make deferred payment in the form of goods. Now, children, the fourth problem is lack of store of value. So, children, under barter system, it is very difficult for people to store of wealth for the future use, because most of the goods like wheat, fruits, vegetables, rice, etc. do not possess durability. I mean, their quality deteriorates with passage of time. Children, you all know it very well that wheat, rice, vegetables or fruits we cannot store for a long period of time in the ancient times, because we do not have the certain facilities available what we are available right now. So in the ancient times, if there is an excess production of wheat or rice, we cannot store it for a long period of time, because there may be the certain problems arises of storing this commodities, this goods, because most of the goods cannot possess durability, like fruits, vegetables we cannot store for a long period of time. We can store it for 3, 4 or very hardly 5 to 7 days. We have to consume such commodities with this limited period of time. We cannot use it for a long period of time. So that is why the problems arises in the barter system. Second is, children, storage of goods needs times and efforts. If we want to store goods, then it definitely needs so much time and efforts, because you know very well in the ancient times we do not have any houses which is made of bricks or cemented. We have houses which is made of mud. So we cannot store wheat or certain commodities at that point of time, because if there is any raining, if the raining in the raining season, all the certain crops will destroyed, because we cannot store it for a long process of time. That is why it is very difficult for the people to store of wealth for the future use. So children, difficulties, it is very difficult to continue the barter system for a long period of time. That is why it was needed to be replaced by the monetary system, monetary exchange, that is buying and selling of goods with the help of money. So some goods are very perishable. They perish in a short period. So it was not possible to store the goods in barter system for a long period. So these are the certain limitations, the drawbacks or the problem we are facing in exchanging one goods with another goods. So children, what is money? According to G. Crowther, money is anything that is generally accepted as a medium of exchange, store of value, common measure of value, standard for deferred payment, at the same time acts as a measure and as a store of value. Now children, let us learn the kinds of money, or you can say the classification of money. Children, money can be classified into various categories. Before children, let us pay attention the functions of money. What are the various functions of money? So children, the functions of money can be broadly categorized in the two categories. The first is the primary function and the second is the secondary function. So children, in the primary function, the money can perform the various functions. The first is medium of exchange, unit of account, and in the secondary functions, money acts as a store of value, standard for deferred payment, and easy transfer of values. Now children, let us learn the classification of money. So money can be classified on the basis of relationship between the value of money and the value of money as a commodity. So broadly, money can be classified as fiat money, fiduciary money, full-bodied money, representative full-bodied money, and credit money. These are the few classifications of money. I am going to start the first classification of money. The first type of money, which is known as fiat money. Now children, what is fiat money? Children, fiat money refers to that money which is issued by order or authority of the government, and it includes all notes and currencies which the people of a country are legally bound to accept it as a medium of exchange. Nobody in our country will refuse to take the money as a medium of exchange. All the peoples, or you can say any of the transactions, if it is take place in a country, then nobody in a country will refuse to take the denomination in terms of money. So that is why it has a feature of common or generally acceptability. All the coins, the currency, all such paper currency notes are considered as a fiat money. Now let us move to the next classification of money. Now second is full-bodied money. Children, what is full-bodied money? Full-bodied money refers to the money in terms of coins whose commodity value is equal to the money value as and when they are issued. For example, a rupee coin in India during the British rule was made of silver. So commodity value of the coin was equal to the money value of the coin at the time of issuing, or the market value of one silver contained coin was equal to 1 rupee in the market. So full-bodied money is, you can say, when the money value is exactly equal to the commodity value, it is known as a full-bodied money. Now there are the certain classification of you can say full-bodied money also. The first is representative full-bodied money. Now children, next is representative full-bodied money. What is representative full-bodied money? It refers to money which is usually made of paper. The value of representative full-bodied money is much higher than its value as a commodity. It is accepted as a money as it can be conventionally used for carrying out transactions. So this is a representative money, children. Now let us move to the next variety of money. Now credit money. What is credit money, children? Credit money refers to that money of which money value is more than the commodity value. So credit money refers to the money whose intrinsic value, or you can say the commodity value, is much lower than its face value. I mean, money value is greater than the commodity value. For example, the face value of rupees 100 note is rupees 100, but we would get a much lower value if we sell the note as a piece of paper. The examples are the credit cards, bank deposits are some of the other examples of the credit money. So children, one more example I want to explain you here. What is the market value of a coin which is made of metal in India? Obviously that is much lower than the money value of this rupee coin, isn't it? Otherwise the people would have melted this coin and sold the metal in the market at a price greater than 1 rupee. That is why in ancient times, children, if there is a coin which is made of you can say the metal has the value less in the market, if the value of the metal would be high than its market value, then what the people do, the people will you can say melt this metal, and they can sell into the market much higher value than its on market value, I mean the market value of a coin. So that is why the credit money is always greater than the commodity value, or you can say the money value is always greater than the commodity value. Children, next kind of money is you can say fiduciary money. Now what is the fiduciary money? Fiduciary money is that money which is issued on the basis of trust between the payer and the payee. For example, check will be considered as a fiduciary money because it is being given as a mean of payment on the basis of trust, not on the basis of any order by the government. Like if we are giving a check to anybody, then this is known as a fiduciary money because it is being issued on the basis of trust, not on the not by the order of any person or any government. The various forms of credit money we have are token coins also, representative token coins also. Now children, let us move to our next topic, that is money supply. What is money supply, dear children? So what is money supply, children? Money supply refers to total volume of money held by the public at the particular point of time in an economy. Again I am saying, money supply refers to total volume of money held by the public at a particular point of time in an economy. It includes the money held by the public only. So as I just see in the slide, the total stock of money circulating in an economy is the money supply. The circulating money involves the currency printed notes, money in the demand, deposit accounts, and in the form of other liquidity assets. Monetary policy of a country is concerned with the supply of money, and narrow money supply is called M1. It consists of coins or notes in circulation and demand deposits with bank and central bank. So children, money supply is a stock concept as it is concerned with a particular point of time. Now let us move to the next slide children, money supply. So children, till 1967 to 68, the Reserve Bank of India, that is RBI, used only the narrow concept of money supply, that is M1 measure. Since 1977, there are 4 alternative measures of money supply, that is M1, M2, M3 and M4, and in our syllabus we have only M1 measure of money supply. The next M2, M3 and M4 measure of money supply you are going to learn in your next classes, I mean in your graduation classes. So what is M1 money? It contains all the currency and coins held by the public plus all the demand deposits held with the commercial banks and other deposits of RBI bank. So this is the money supply of M1 measure. So as I just said, it consists of currency and coins and notes held with the public, excluding cash in hand of all banks, demand deposits excluding interbank deposits, and deposit held with RBI, that is excluding International Monetary Fund, Provident Fund, guarantee funds and ad hoc liabilities, that is the narrow concepts. So children, another goods. So children, so far we have learned a definition of money, thereafter the characteristics of money, the barter system, I mean what is barter system of exchange, what is barter economy or the C2C economy, and thereafter we have learned the various limitations of the barter system, I mean what are the problems we are facing in exchanging goods with another goods. That is the forms of money, I mean what is the fiat money, fiduciary money, full bodied money and credit money. Thereafter we have learned the money supply, I mean the definition of money supply and the measurement of the money supply, that is M1 measure, M2, M3 and M4, and I have explained you that in our syllabus we have only M1 measure of money supply. So children, that's all for today. This is a very small chapter when it is finishing up here itself, and in the next video we guys will learn the next chapter, that is chapter number 6, banking. So in that chapter we will learn the definition and the functions of central bank as well as the commercial banks. So that's all for today children. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day and thank you so much. Sai Ram.